everybody, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz, your host here at Crimes Untold. Sorry for the delayed true crime recap for this past week, but there was quite a bunch that I wanted to get through in order to give you the best recap I could. So, first thing I'm going to discuss is that of the two women that were attacked on a Bahamas trip. So, these two women, they've been friends for years. Their name are Amber Scherer and Dungayla Dobson. So these two moms went on a kid-free trip to the Bahamas, and they went on a Carnival cruise line, and they unfortunately were attacked. One of the moms actually texted her daughter, "We were raped." So these longtime friends, obviously, they're on this cruise ship. They dock in the Bahamas, which is quite oftentimes a stop for the Carnival cruise ships. And they would go and enjoy the beach for the day. So they were relaxing on Grand Bahama Beach when they were offered a 2-for-1 drink special by one of the employees. So they would take the drinks, one's coconut, one's pineapple. But they would say these drinks were super strong. And when they're having these beverages, they're also in contact with their family as well. I want you to keep that in mind. So they would become extremely intoxicated within the 15-minute window of having these drinks, and their loved ones at home would actually notice this as well through their communication that they're having with them. Well, after having a second beverage, they would go to look for some shells so they could bring them home for their kids, and a staff member offered to tell them where they could find the perfect shells, like really good ones, on the beach. Amber couldn't remember what was happening prior to coming back to reality. She had blacked out due to her drink, and when she came to, there was a man on top of her. She was being assaulted, and so was her friend. So the men responsible for the attacks were arrested. One was 54 years old, and the other one was a 40-year-old. But these women feel that they weren't taken seriously enough and that there wasn't a proper rape kit taken as well, or kits taken as well. When they were back on the cruise ship, their Carnival cruise liner, they did indeed have a tox screen, and it showed that there was multiple drugs in their system, including benzodiazepine. And the tox screen also showed that there was little to no alcohol in their system. So their drinks were extremely roofied to the point, hence why they tasted different and why these drugs would affect them so much. And it was also reported that there was bruises all over their legs as well, showing that they fought back. So apparently around the time that they went to the Bahamas, there was a level 2 travel advisory issued, and Carnival didn't disclose it to the passengers on the ship. And this advisory was established a week prior to these moms going on vacation. So the women were taken care of on the ship, but they feel that their case should have been handled better when it comes to situations like this. So assault is assault, and it will sit with you for years, not days, which is what people need to realize when it comes to cases like this. So they forever will be challenged in life when it comes to day to day because of what they endured on this trip, and they will never look at a trip the same way ever again. Briefly, we're going to discuss something I already talked about in last week's true crime recap, is that they're still continuing working on IDing the bones that was found at Fox Hollow Farm. So like I mentioned in my previous video, back in 1996 they found tens of thousands of bones on the estate of Herbert Baumeister during a $1 million excavation that they did. They believe that these bones belong to an abundance of missing men from the area that have been missing for years. Currently, they're still working on identifying them, and they believe that there's at least 25 victims that were buried on the property. Obviously, if you watched last week's video, they identified Manuel Resendez, who was a part of the remains that was found back in 1996. So at this time, they are currently still working on identifying all of these John Does that they found. I'm just going to label them as John Does. All of these remains of these John Does, they're still working on it. And it's going to take them some time because there's quite a lot to process. And I'm pretty sure they're piecing these men back together, which sounds really gross, but very true. Because when you have individual bones, like tens of thousands of bones, You need to piece them together and find similar attributes or characteristics, or group them together. And this is a particular type of bone, but there's 4 different sets. So then there's 4 different sets of remains, and so on and so forth. So at this time, that's what they're currently investigating at this moment in the case of Herbert Bell. So another big thing that happened, like I talked about in my previous video, so they found Jennifer Crimee guilty on all 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter when it came to her involvement in the Oxford High School shootings that was committed by her son, Ethan Crimee. So during the trial of Jennifer Crimee, it did come out that she wasn't the best mother. Oftentimes, when Ethan contacted her during a time of need, she would ignore him when she was with one of the many men that she had an affair with. It did come out as well that there was a lack of parenting in the Crimee household, and I can't truly speak on his dad's behalf due to not knowing any context of his side of the story. His trial is coming soon, so we will hear his side of the story. But what was spoken about in regards to Jennifer's side is that she had a severe lack of parenting, lack of care for her son, lack of care of taking care of the family home. Her main focus that was highlighted during this trial was her affairs and her state of mind in regards to that. They would even discuss the actions of her son and the different phrases that he wrote on that math assignment that was flagged by guidance, and they then contacted his parents in regards to it. The phrases that he wrote was, "Help me, my life is useless, and the thoughts won't stop." Obviously, that's a red flag, and you kind of need to take that seriously. And his mom didn't, or his parents didn't. And it's really sad because obviously this school shooting happened. So those thoughts like these, you should seek help. And he tried to ask his mother, but she was more selfish in the depths of her affair than taking care of her son. Hence why the purchase of said firearm is also an issue as well. Her and her husband bought Ethan a Sig Sauer 9mm pistol for Christmas, and this is the same one in which he would use to kill those 4 students out of the 11 that he shot at Oxford High School that day. So the day of the shooting, she literally texted her male friend that she had an affair with about the shooting, saying that she could have prevented it, but she chose to ignore her son. Her and her husband, James, also told the school that they were unable to take him home because of needing to return to work. They also went on to tell the school that Ethan could walk home to be alone, which is not something that's needed due to the signs of his failing mental health. Those signs that they flagged should have been an indication for his parents to, hey, I need to pick up my son and he needs to be with me and I need to take care of him. I do also want to say that Jennifer's boss also was spoken to in reference to this, and he said that he would have let Jennifer leave and allow her to bring Ethan to work with her. So that clearly wasn't an issue with her work. She just didn't feel like helping her son. And I know it sounds like I'm dogging his mom, but she did nothing to help her son when it came to his mental health, and she could have prevented this, like I've spoken about in many previous school shootings when I've covered them. If there's non-existent parents or parents that fail to help their children, they could have prevented a shooting from happening. They could have prevented or helped prevent this from happening. And his parents could have helped him from doing this. They could have stopped him. They could have not bought him that gun. They could have found a counselor for him outside of school. They could have been more present for him, and instead they ignored the signs and now are facing the consequences for that. All right, so lastly is a big one here in New Hampshire. If you are not from New England, the case of Harmony Montgomery is very big right now. And the reason for that is because the trial of her father, Adam Montgomery, is underway. He stands accused of killing his 5-year-old daughter, Harmony, back in 2019, and I have a specific date for you that I will go further into. So his wife, Kayla, is currently on the stand, or has been on the stand since Thursday of last week, or Friday of last week. And her testimony still is not over, or hasn't been concluded as I'm recording this now. So while she was on the stand, she pointed out all of the deception she did in regards to what Adam wanted her to say in regards to Harmony, and she said it was all to protect herself against her husband, Adam. Kayla pled guilty to perjury charges and is serving time for that currently, like she talks about when she's on the stand. So cross-examination started for her, and instantly the defense started poking holes in her story about what happened to Harmony. So on the stand, Kayla did admit that the day in which Harmony was abused repeatedly, which I'll talk about that day more in depth, kind of, Adam repeatedly punched Harmony after she had yet another accident in their car. Wetting oneself is an emotional response to physical abuse and sometimes sexual abuse. Abuse is not a simple topic to cover. This is because there's so many different variables when it comes to how one responds to abuse, unfortunately. So she no longer could control her bladder or her colon due to the abuse that she was enduring by her father. He was punishing her. So on December 7th of 2019, this is the day in particular that everyone wants to know about. This is the day that Harmony Montgomery would die, unfortunately. So after the family woke up in the vehicle in the parking lot of Colonial Village Apartments, Harmony had an accident and Adam started attacking her. He was yelling and punching her. Harmony cried due to what her father was doing. So after they got ready for the day, they would go to the methadone clinic in which Kayla and Adam needed to get their methadone dose for the day. One by one, they would go into the clinic, and when Adam came back, he could tell that Harmony yet again had another accident. He would go on to attack her again whilst they were in front of this clinic. After this attack, him and Kayla then would start talking, and then they would go to Burger King. But when they were on the way to Burger King, Adam would again attack Harmony, and this is in between the red lights. And Harmony was crying, and she was making a strange noise, as to Kayla testifies on the stand about. This strange noise, I believe, is a snore-like noise that one makes when they're continuously struck in the head, or it's even a moaning noise. The entire car ride, instead of Adam asking his daughter if she needs anything, or even Kayla, he would continue to yell at her and strike her. Kayla one time tried to intervene, but she said that there was a look in his eyes that she can never unsee, and it scared her. Harmony would continue to cry as she was seated behind Kayla in the Chrysler Sebring. Adam would just continue his assault on his child with her half-siblings sitting next to her two brothers. One was 2 and the other one was about 11 months. After they arrived at Burger King, Adam said, "I think I really hurt her," and then went on to order food through the drive-thru. They ate in the parking lot, and Harmony was underneath a blanket in the backseat of the car. This same blanket is one that they would use to cover Harmony in so nobody could see her. They would go back to Colonial Village after eating, and Harmony wasn't making any noise. Neither Adam or Kayla would check on Harmony underneath the blanket. I believe Harmony was already deceased at this point, and they went on to buy heroin and crack in the car with the children present. Harmony died from abuse by her father. Kayla would also admit how Adam would continuously try to conceal the remains of Harmony to try and also try to dispose of her. He even at one point would put her in a freezer at the business he worked at, which was Portland Pie Company, and would even go as far as bringing the remains to and from work. He would even put her in a diaper bag that they got from the hospital and put her in the ceiling of a shelter in which they stayed at. There was even a time where her remains were put in a cooler in the hallway of Kayla's mother's apartment building. Adam would also put lime on Harmony's body to try and help with the decomposition process. So this testimony that she's giving is highly disturbing, and it caused Crystal Story, which is Harmony's mother, to absolutely break down. I'm sure Crystal had no idea what was going on. She unfortunately didn't have custody of Harmony due to her own fight with substance abuse. I have absolutely no words when it comes to this crime and what happened to Harmony. I wish they do, in fact, find her remains, and I'm very hopeful that they find her remains. I do have a link to Kayla Montgomery's testimony, one of the videos down below, and I will also attach more as well. That, my friends, is my true crime recap of this week, and I will continue to cover the Harmony Montgomery case during True Crime Recap for this week as well.